All right, everyone, welcome back to the Flourish podcast. It has been a while. If you haven't seen on socials or don't know what's going on in my life, I'm having a baby. So I have been a little off the radar lately, but praise God, we prayed for this, we wanted this, and we are
Yeah,
so
we did.
excited for the future. But I kind of took a hiatus. We're back, and the first guest that we get to have in 2026, I am super, super excited for. So this is my friend Allison. And today, I really want to have like an honest and raw conversation. And I feel like this conversation is going to be for the woman who is in the waiting, but also like doesn't want to pretend that everything's fine. And I don't think that we're going to be covering the topic of singleness today, but I don't think that only applies to single women. But my friend Allison, who is sitting here, she has walked through singleness and she has done it. I have watched her do it with seasons of surrender, but also seasons of deep wrestling. And so Allison serves as someone who helps mobilize and send missionaries out into the world. And she works with the Assemblies of God. She lives a life that I really do believe she is fully poured out for the kingdom. And it has been so cool to get to watch her journey. So behind her calling, behind the logistics, behind all of the things, she is a woman who is experiencing waiting and longing. And just like the rest of us, has walked through these deep wrestling seasons. So welcome, Allison. I'm so excited to
Thank
have
you.
you, and I cannot wait to jump into this conversation. Are you ready to go deep? Okay, so let's just like really like dive in, and I want to know how you reconcile the fact that God is good, but
Yeah.
you haven't got what you've hoped for yet. How do you reconcile that?
Yeah, that's a big question. Hoping for marriage, hoping for a husband, hoping for kids, and all those things. I will say it's been a journey. I think one that I've been on, I will always be on, we will always be on with anything in our lives. But what I've came to and learned is to truly know that God is good. It means truly knowing and believing in the character of God, that He is good in every season of life. The highs, the lows, the times of waiting, the times when you see the fruit, and that his goodness is stable and that will never change. Because the stability of his goodness is what we base our lives off of. That it's the way we get through all of the midst of the changes and challenges and disappointments. And the beauty about the Lord and his goodness is that he's not just like, well, I'm good the entire time, right? Through the highs and lows, that even in the midst of the disappointment and the challenges, he promises a full life with him, right? Because a life or a full life is actually not getting every single thing I want. That's not what a full life is. A full life is knowing the goodness of God and walking it with him. Because God's character and how his goodness is defined isn't defined by if I get every desire of my life, because it's actually not about me. It's
Yeah,
about the
that's
Lord
good.
and him in me and walking with me in this life. Because he is still and he is always good. Even if, right, I think it's David that talks about that in the Bible, even if this one area of my life hasn't happened or hasn't been fulfilled yet. And the biggest thing that I just continue to go back to is that this life is not a waiting life, it's an abundant life,
Yeah.
right? I have confidence in his goodness because I can look at the abundance that he has brought me and provision in every other area of my life. Not every, but you know what I mean? In all these other areas of my life. So knowing the goodness of God is to know and deeply know in your heart and believe in the character of God, in the goodness of God, because that will sustain you through every high and low
Yeah.
for sure.
I think it's funny because one of the hardest questions I think we have to wrestle with as Christians who don't get our way is, what Jesus did on the cross enough for me, or is it not? And
Yeah,
I mean, if
literally.
I'm really honest,
Literally.
there's been so many seasons that I probably would tell you to your face that it was enough and not believe that in my heart? So I'm like, that is so hard to go. Exactly what you're saying. All these other things that line up to his goodness show me that he's a good God, regardless of this one desire that I have. So, okay, with that, have you ever felt forgotten by God? Like, how do you reconcile that? That's like another
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
emotion, I guess, but like feeling forgotten by the one that you're trying so hard to live for is so hard. So, how do you do that?
And I think in our humanity, it's so easy. Like, of course, I've felt forgotten by God, right? Because it's our flesh, where it's like, oh, of course you've forgotten me. When in the reality, he never forgets us. He's always
Yeah.
consistently there. So when I think about being in these moments, 100%, I absolutely have many times. There's two predominant ones I think about in my life. One I go back to my mid-20s, like, right after graduating college, was living in Michigan. I had a great group of friends. They're still my friends to this day, but I watched all of my friends get boyfriends, go on dates, get engaged, get married, start having kids, and just seeing all of these chapters and exciting chapters in their lives unfold. However, what was sustaining me mentally in that moment was saying, well, I was going to go live overseas, right? I had this exciting chapter ahead in ministry. That was my focus, right? Not marriage and kids. I do remember there was a few moments where I would come back from the bachelorette party or come back from the bridal shower and be like, why couldn't that happen to me? Right. And then the hardest one I would say actually was recently when I turned 31. I have asked so many of my friends, my single friends, this question. And a lot of times it's when you turn to a decade or right after it, like you're 30, you turn 40. So, any single gals listening to this and you turned into a new decade and you are feeling so alone and forgotten by the Lord, you are not alone. One, because the Lord is with you. And two, there's so many women who feel the exact same way. So, when I turned 30, it was exciting. It was a new decade. I was staying in the US, right? I wasn't traveling as much overseas anymore. I was moving to Missouri. I was rooted. I was ready for the picket fence and the marriage and the kids, the rocking chair on the porch, right? The Sunday dinners. I was like ready for it all because I thought, oh, I'm like stable now, right? Like I'm rooted in Missouri. It's going to be easier to find a husband. And so I put myself out there. I was meeting men, I was going on dates. And when I turned 31, was going on dates too. And it left me feeling, I left dates feeling like, oh, that almost happened. And a huge insecurity that I've dealt with since, I don't know, middle school, high school, my whole life is a lie of I'm the almost girl. I'm almost enough. I'm the girl picked second. I'm the girl who's funny or who can like emotionally connect with a guy, but I can't get him to commit to be my boyfriend. Or I almost get there, but or something happens to where I feel off or they feel off and there's always something missing. And so this year when I in my 30 year of 31, I actually went on a date with this guy and was so excited about it. And he only asked me one question about myself the entire date. Like it was as if I was interviewing him unintentionally. And I came home and I cried to the Lord and I was just like crying. And I said, Lord, have you forgotten me? Because I've watched all my friends get married, have kids, have the house, the dream life. The Martha Stewart in me is like screaming, like, I want to bake the bread
I'm,
with the
like, too
children.
hormonal to listen to you right now. I'm literally, like,
Sorry.
tearing up. I'm like well, because I just, like and we've talked about this so many times in our
Yeah.
friendship, but, like, I have watched through infertility, and, like, every
Oh, yeah.
emotion that you're
I get
going
it.
through, I'm like, I've been there. I've been there
Yep.
where it's like, you celebrate another person, but it stings inside. You
Yeah.
literally go and you're like, "I just went to another baby shower or heard another pregnancy announcement. God, why have you forgotten me?" And I guess now I'm, like, in the season I've been praying for, and I just like, I know that's coming for you, and so it's like, just as your friend and walking through this, I'm listening to these emotions, and I'm also just hormonal, but I'm, like, getting so emotional because 'cause I'm like, I know, like and I think that's sorry to totally sidetrack this, but I
No.
think that's the power of community too, like, your people are gonna believe it for you so many people believed pregnancy for me before I had it, but your people will believe it for you.
Percent, because who am I calling on the
Yeah,
way home from that date? I'm calling my community and they're pouring truth into me. They're saying, Allison, like, you want someone who asks you questions. You want
yeah.
someone who gives a rip about you, right? Nice guy and all those things. We could go down a rabbit trail of all the different, things I've been guys I've gone on dates with. But it's the community that sustains me because again, the Lord has provided in that area of my life. Because this area doesn't seem fulfilled yet, I turn to an area where there is fruit and provision, where the Lord has showed up to sustain me,
Yeah.
right? And it's in those moments that I'm like crying out to the Lord, like what you just said. How is it so easy for other girls, right? They just get pregnant, or they just meet a guy and they're married in such a short amount of time, and it just works out. Um, and these people too, like our community, they're serving Jesus, right? They're doing their thing and it's happening for them. They're living their life. And so I think it's easy to believe a lie of like, what's wrong with me that it hasn't happened? Like, is there something off with me? Am I not doing enough? Am I not being, I don't know, whatever the things are, um, is it not enough? And then you just have to go back to the Lord is good in every season of life. He loves me so much that he knows me and he knows you and every girl listening. He knows every part of you and what you want. And he sees the whole picture and he's walking with you when it's good and it's fruitful, right? When you are pregnant and you're walking through this season, and then he's walked with you through the seasons of not being pregnant and not being fulfilled, right? And you can look back just like I can look back on dates that turn into funny stories or those tears that I can laugh about now. But I look back and I go, nope, the Lord is with me and he sustained me, right? And he's pushing me through.
How long
Absolutely.
do you feel like it took you to get there? Because I just feel like there were
Oh,
so
yeah.
many years of darkness for me that, like, I could
Oh,
say that
yeah.
now, and I could even
Oh,
say
yeah.
that, like, probably a few years before I got pregnant. Like, it wasn't just because I got pregnant, but, like,
Yeah.
I was walking through infertility for, like, a decade. So even if the last 2 years I was in a good spot, like, that was still 8 years of not having that attitude, you know?
Oh, 100%. And actually, this is funny. My friend was on a podcast, actually another one about singleness, which is funny. And she was asking us some of our single friends, like questions about singleness. And a lot of the answers were true answers, like ones I'm giving now, right? Like the Lord sustains you and you are enough. And I had even brought up like, but what happens with the girl like me right now? I'm 31. I have a strong desire to get married and have kids. I'm in it right now, and I can look to what God is doing. But there's days where it's really hard, and I can say, what about that girl who's desiring it so badly right now? They haven't arrived yet at like being enough. And to be honest, I think it's a journey, which is like a terrible answer
No,
because
but
you want
it's
to
the
just it's
truth.
a journey. It's refinement of the Lord, right? It's refinement of saying
That's good, Allison. Yeah.
like, challenges and, like, hard seasons that you walk through life with Jesus, it's refining,
Mhm.
and it's moments of being closer to Jesus,
Mhm.
and it's hard, and you have to, like, keep going to him every single day. That's why spending time with the Lord every single day is utmost important because you
Mhm.
know what truth is, right? It's having community around you that's gonna speak truth into you. Like, there's moments I would go to you, and I'd be like, "I'm tired. I'm tired of carrying the weight of life by myself. I'm tired of, like, watching other people do it," and you would pour truth into me of who God is and what he can do
Mm.
and how to sustain this as well. It's a bad answer of like, if there's no snap your fingers answer to where you just arrive. I don't think anyone actually ever arrives, to be honest. I always think there's something else we're desiring because we're
Mhm.
human.
Mhm. Which is
I
why,
think
like,
it's yeah.
multi-generational community is important. That's, like, a whole nother topic for another day,
Oh,
but
yeah,
I
100%. And
learned that.
those yes.
Mhm.
Yeah. Sorry to meet her. Like, yeah, like,
No.
because I'm agreeing, like, oh my goodness, like, even our church, like, back in Michigan, multi-generational friends that
Mhm.
I would go out to
Mhm.
dinner with, and those women in their 60s and
Haven't
70s, they would
arrived.
pour in haven't
Yeah.
arrived.
Yeah,
They
and
have
it's like,
stuff that they're,
"Oh, okay. So
"Oh,
I'm
so when
not
we go to heaven."
behind." Yeah.
Got it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah, it's
we're
so
not
true.
behind, we're not forgotten, like, it's never gonna stop, you know? Being forged in the
Never.
fire sucks and it hurts, but, like, the beauty that comes, the purity that comes from that is, like, yeah, we won't really ever get to experience the fullness of that until we get to heaven. Because one day you're gonna be married and you're gonna be mad at your husband. And one day I'm gonna have this baby on this side of earth and I'm gonna be like, why did I do that? I already have had moments where I'm like, pregnancy sucks. Why did I do this to myself? Like, so I'm like, it's just so funny how our emotions are so fleeing. Like
Yes.
one
Yes.
minute we feel something totally different, and then the next it's like, I don't know. I'm just like, "God, I'm so sorry for, like, taking for granted your gifts," you know? But I do. It's crazy.
I'm gonna get married and have kids, and I'm gonna be like, "Hey, remember those, like, Friday" okay, this is funny. My friend, she's single as well. We were, like, we were, like, in my house, like, watching TV, watching a show one night, and she looks at me, and she goes, "Our married friends pay to do this."
Mhm.
So someone watches their kid they pay to do
Yeah,
this,
isn't
and
that
I was like,
crazy?
"You're right." Like, there's, like, grass is greener on both sides, right? Like,
Mhm.
there's gonna be moments I look back, and I'm gonna be like, "Oh, I missed that flexibility. I missed this," right? They're always gonna be desiring something, and that's why, like, you have to root in not as much your feelings, and as someone who's very more emotionally driven, you have to root in the truth of who God is,
Yeah,
because that's your stability,
yeah,
100%.
yeah. Jeremiah 17:7-8 talks about, like, those who trust in the Lord, those who are rooted will never stop producing fruit. So it's like the trust that we have in God regardless of the season, regardless of the emotions, the ones who can like go to the water and drink over and over of his goodness, we will keep producing fruit because that's how good
Yeah,
of a God he is, you know?
he's so good. Yeah.
So good. So I want to know what the church gets wrong about singleness. What are some like
Mm.
ideas we have that are just incorrect about that season?
I will say that I think it's changed over the years. It's different than when it was maybe like 20 years ago, or
Sure.
maybe when I was a kid growing up, things like that. But the biggest thing I would say is the church is a place that you go to be discipled, to be taught how to follow Jesus in every area of life. So that can be like finances, obedience. I don't know. I'm thinking of all things family, like all the things in our lives that we have. You are being discipled and taught and shepherded of how to follow that in the way of the Lord. And so I have, because of my job, I have been to so many conferences, and in those are multiple services. I've been to so many churches all over the country, and sat in amazing sermons. I have never heard a teaching on singleness. I've only
Mm,
found it in a podcast or in a book or a blog. But I've heard many marriage sermons. And again, like I'm not saying those are bad things. That is something that needs to be taught on. Because honestly, predominantly, probably most of your congregation or whatever the conference is married. And then in those sermons, they always give a caveat of like, oh, single people in the room, you can use this in the future, which is true. Like, I'm not hating, it's true, 100%. But I think inherently that makes the goal marriage. Um, and so I also want to make a caveat that like my church community, the one I've had, the one that you're part of, like they've done a great job of walking alongside me, the people in the church, my small groups and things like that. So I don't think it's any one particular church thing. I think it's a Christian culture thing. I think it's in Christian culture that marriage is the end goal, that marriage is the win, that you are complete now that you are married. Because it is such a great thing that God created, right? God gave Adam, Eve, like all those things. You can have a full ministry filled, Jesus walking with life as a single person. And so this is what I have to say, I guess, is like marriage isn't a bad path. It's a great path. It's just not the only path, right?
amen.
And
Yeah.
I think we need more, I don't know if it's like resources or whatever it is, or more just integration of singleness into the church. Marrieds also need to bring singles into their community and know how to do that well, right? Like we need each other.
Yeah, and I think it opens our horizons to perspective. Our perception is reality, and sometimes we don't know what we don't know, you know? So, like, having you be my single friend and teach me what it's actually like to be single, especially in today's day and age, like, girl, I don't envy like, I do have a moment of, like, silence for all the single people. I am like, I can't even imagine. But
Amazing.
I'm like, I
Please.
wouldn't know that perspective if it wasn't for me bringing people close to me who live
Yeah.
different lives and who have different experiences. Yeah. I have my next question is like, I'm hoping that you have practical advice because I don't know what to tell those single people in my life
Yeah.
this, but like dating culture is terrible. And
I agree.
how do you like love Jesus while having standards, having purity, having like all the things that you know you're called to have, but then there's like this expectation out there. It's like the
Yeah.
people who say, how do how do you buy the car without driving it first? And it's like, it's another topic for another day, but I just am like, that's our normal culture. Like, how do you
Yeah.
date in this culture?
Yeah, it's like it's the Wild West out there, my friend. Like it is wild. Dating culture now is just so different. And it's especially different when you're in your 30s and 40s. I think when you're in college again, you're like living with a bunch of like single
Sure.
people. So it's
Yeah.
like easy to meet people. And then it gets harder as you like, but you have more energy to go out and like meet people and things
Yeah.
like that. But as you get older, it's so difficult. So I think as adults, it's harder to find natural places to meet people. That's a big one, right? Like other than like church or like communities, if you have hobbies or like things like that. So that's pivoted us as a society. I could talk about this for 8 hours. So like it pivots us to dating apps have become so popular, right? That's how you meet people because everyone is accessible, and to be honest with that, everyone is disposable.
It's
Like,
so counterintuitive to
so
how Christ
crazy.
sees us. Like, I'm
Literally
like, it's wild. I'm like, yeah.
so crazy. It's so crazy because one, you don't have any skin in the game. You've never actually met him in person. So you're not going to be loving like Jesus does because you're not going to be like, "Oh, I like you even though you don't like to go on bike rides." Like it's something dumb, right? But it makes you want this like perfect person. And it's honestly counterintuitive, like you said, to be Christ like. And you have access to everyone, but it is so difficult to meet someone because you're just like in this digital box. And so this is the practical advice I have is there's two baselines, two things to live rules to live by. I do think it's important I don't know if everyone's gonna agree with me. I do think people should go on the dating apps and they should get dates fast. Like, even if you have to ask for it, don't have them be your texting buddy. You should not be texting and messaging on the app for 2 weeks at a time, and that's not how you get to know someone. Meet for coffee, first dates are not that serious. You should be dating based on God's definition of love and dating knowing your worth. Those 2 things, you have to have that as the, like, foundation in every interaction you have,
So
because
good.
I've been there when I've not, and then I've been like, "Oh, maybe I'll date this guy," but he doesn't actually give a rip about me, or he, like, talks badly about his family, and I'm or whatever the thing is, I don't know. But so 2 things. What does Jesus say about my worth, right? Who does he say I am? How am I supposed to be loved? Who does he say we are? And then second, how does Jesus love me? What does he say love is? So if you know those things as your base, you actually won't tolerate being treated less because you know how to be loved because you know how to be loved by Jesus and you know who Jesus says that you are, right? You love despite your flaws. You're quick to forgive, right? It's patient and kind and communicative and all these different things that Jesus says that love is and that who you deserve to be or deserve to have. And so I would say that know those 2 things and just hide those in your heart and even every day with the Lord if you go over those things. And the second one is really cheesy, but it's so true. And I've even come back to it in my 30s is make a list of what you want and stick to it. And it's cheesy because I'm like, I remember 16-year-old Allison making her first list, right, of the things she wanted. I think he had to like the Jonas Brothers and things that actually didn't matter. So the list gets refined as you get older, but it reminds you of like what you want. What does Jesus say about love? And does that person reflect that? So my list will have some character traits. Like I want them to be active. I like if they're like career driven, like different things. But the top of the list is, oh, does he love me like Jesus loves me? Does he pursue me? Is he clear and communicative with me, right? Does he spend time with Jesus daily? Is he active in his walk with the Lord? Like those things is really important because you'll find too to the single gals listening, character trumps looks.
I want to read Psalms 27:13-14 because I feel like this verse just reflects like the heart posture of those in waiting and how we can like position ourselves. So Psalm 27:13-14. I would have lost heart unless I had believed that I would see the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living. Wait on the Lord, be of good courage, and he shall strengthen your heart. Wait, I say, on the Lord. And this was what's funny about this, like the context of this verse is that it was written when David was like genuinely fighting to believe that God was good. Like everything around him was telling him that he was forgotten and that God was not going to come through for him. And it says in there, I remain confident. Like, I think that that's like a choice that we say. We don't
Yeah.
just wake up confident in the goodness of the Lord. We don't just wake up confident that we're going to see it through, but like we choose to know his character and to like believe that we will see his goodness. So, have you ever lost confidence in God? And like what brought you back and how did you choose that?
Yeah. I think that's so important to note. It's a choice. Like nothing in our lives are just going to come naturally. Our human flesh is going to fight against it. But out of our love and our closeness to Jesus, we could choose those things, but it's really hard. And I just want to like losing confidence in the Lord and coming back to that is for me probably some of the most hardest moments of my life. When I think about, yeah, there's been many times a huge time, which you know about this, like last year around this time, I was getting to know a guy that I was really excited about. And I was like, oh my goodness, he fits the list, like all these things. Like, and you just get excited. And I was letting myself kind of like dream and be like, oh, is it happening for me, Lord? And I remember sitting there after a date and like praying and being like, Lord, thank you. It's my turn. Like, you've given me the thing, which is premature to say. I recognize that. But you've given me the thing I've been praying for. And then that boy ended it on a random Tuesday. And not to be I like almost I want to cry, like thinking back to this time and just to like hug Allison and be like, it's going to be okay. The Lord provides. Like, it's going to be okay. I remember like I flew into where I was having a meeting and I picked up the rental car and I was driving to this meeting I had to be at. And I started like bawling because I was just overwhelmed and sad and felt forgotten by Jesus and alone. And then I would literally have to like sober up and, like, wipe my face and, like, pat my makeup and go in the meeting with a smile on, and then I would come out of the meeting and I would cry again and drive to my next location, and I just had kept doing that for, like, quite a while, and I was losing confidence that God was good and that he was the good things in my life were actually being taken away from me. I was starting to believe that the Lord was taking things that I thought were good away, that I thought he gave back that he gave to me. And I think it's so easy to be there, especially as single women, because it just loneliness just, like, creeps in so much because you don't have a person next to
Can
you.
I ask you, were the emotions that you were feeling, and might be both answers, but was it because of the loss of that hope that you found the guy, or was it the dread of going back into a season without a relationship?
Little both, I think so maybe somewhere in the middle, if that makes sense,
Yeah.
like, it was like, "Why couldn't this worked out?" Like, "Really? Like, this one also didn't work out?" So, I don't know, because I think at some point, I always get back up, which sounds like I'm fighting, like, it's fine. Like, I get back up, and it's fine, and I go do the thing or whatever, I go on with my
I do think
life.
it's a fight. I think there's a lot of women who isolate and get depressed and sit on their couch, and I've witnessed it, so I do think it's a fight, and I don't wanna, like, diminish that either because it's like
Yeah,
a spiritual battle to, like,
for
keep
sure.
believing. I mean, I can you imagine how tired David was? Like,
Yeah,
living
yeah,
in a cave and,
yeah,
like, having to write,
yeah,
and, like, he's writing these psalms about, like, "God, everyone wants to kill me, but I remember that
mhm.
you're good," you know? So, like, yeah. I think
Yeah.
getting back up is a great example, or, like, a great way to put that, you know?
And I think getting back up, like, this is I don't actually know if this sentence makes sense, but I say it in my mind, is the hardest thing to do is the hard thing. So the
Yeah.
hardest thing to do is to get up, to fight your flesh and returning back to Jesus
So
when
good.
you've lost because, like, if I lose confidence in I'm trying to this is a if I lose confidence in a chair because it's all creaky, I'm not gonna sit in it. I'm not gonna go back and sit in it. If I lost confidence over and over with a friend, I'm probably not gonna confide in my friend that she's gonna, like, not tell everyone what my secrets or whatever it is, right? So when I feel like I lost confidence in the Lord, the hardest thing you can go do is you can fight your flesh, you can get back up, and you can go back to Jesus, even when you don't want to. And you can trust him again even when you don't want to, right? Not saying the Lord failed me. That's not what I'm saying. I thought the Lord did. And now I look and I'm like, thank God. Like I'm in a career I love. I look back, I'm like, yeah, I don't think it would have worked out with that boy. Whatever the thing is, I can look back and say the Lord protected me. But in the moment, it doesn't feel like that. In the moment, it feels like he took something away from you and I can't trust him, right? But you have to trust him if you don't want to, because again, you have to know the character of God as your foundation that even if my emotions are high, even if something doesn't work out, even if these things, the Lord remains good. And it's a daily walking out with
Yep.
Jesus,
Yep.
even when you don't want to. Because, like you said, it's an active choice. It's an active choice to take the pregnancy test again. It's an
Yeah.
active choice to go on the next date. It's an active choice to put your heart out there and tell a boy you like them. Hopefully, they don't crush your heart on
Yeah.
a Tuesday.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
those things, but you just have to do it with the Lord because I also think that anything worthwhile is worth taking a risk as well. And so Jesus is in the midst of our heart, right? Of waiting. For me, it's for marriage and kids or whatever it is. He's not on some other side of the door holding your blessing out of reach, just waiting for you to earn it. He's sitting there, he with you, he's pruning and shaping you for his timing so you'll be ready for the fruit that he's cultivating for you this whole time. Like he is like walking it with you. And that's the goodness of the relationship with the Lord is that he never leaves you, even when you're crying in between meetings and you come back from dates that you're like, was that boy's first day on earth? Like you come back from these things and you're like, okay, Lord, you're good though, because you're
Yeah.
meeting me in the midst of it.
Yeah. So good. I'm gonna read Psalm 68:6. It
Amazing.
says, "God places the lonely in families. He sets the prisoners free and gives them joy." And I think, I mean, it literally says here, like, God places the lonely in families. So
Mhm.
for all of us that are not single, for all of us that, even for people who are single, but like as community, as women, as like a womanhood, a sisterhood, how do we actually meet your needs as a single woman? And what are we doing that maybe we think we're meeting the need and we're really not? Like, how can we help assist God's will to place the lonely into families?
Yeah, this is such a good question. I will say the weapon to fighting loneliness 100% is community, right? Like for everyone, we all need community. I think a simple solution for a long time was like, well, just bring singles into your family dinners and to when your family goes and to the zoo with your kids, bring them along. I think those are really important things, but we all need that. Like singles, marrieds, everyone needs community. I've had, like I said, incredible families invite me into things and making me feel a part of theirs, which is amazing. But I think single women need a deeper level of community because what happens when I leave the house for Thanksgiving with a family that I came or in Missouri, right? I'm away from my family. So I went to Thanksgiving with them and then I come back to my house. Like, what about leaving the event or processing what is happening? Single women need people that are going to carry the weight of life with them. The drive home from a difficult event, the moments after a breakup, right? The overwhelming moments of life. And we need people to remember and show up. And so this is an example, Annie, our friend who's been on this podcast that we know and love. But I was talking to this guy and it was like this long situationship and it was ups and downs. And it was just like hitting my worth. Like I was like, what am I worth? Like, oh my gosh, like he was just treating me badly, whatever. And I was trying to do all the things. And so again, like, cause you have to carry all the weight of everything on your own. And so I was, for a women's event at church, I was making like this crock pot, this is dumb, but crock pot apple cider or whatever. And I had this thing of sugar, like this big glass thing of sugar. And I was like stressed. I was crying about this dumb boy. And I was like putting it all together. It just felt like the things of life. I feel like all the weight of life comes to like a point at the dumbest moments. It's never like when I'm sitting on the
Yeah.
couch and crying. It's when I'm like trying to like get my oil changed. I'm
Yeah.
like crying to the guy, you know? And so I have this like glass thing of sugar. I'm like trying to pour it in and I drop it. Glass goes everywhere. Like a pound of sugar goes everywhere
Oh
in
my
my
gosh.
apartment. And I look up and I just put the crock pot lid on and I grab it and I go to church. I just leave it. And Annie saw I was walking into church and she saw that she could tell I was crying. Like she has like a sixth sense, I swear. So she could like tell I was crying and she's like, what's wrong? And I kind of quickly explained and I was like, it's fine. It's not a big deal. It's okay, whatever. And so the women's event ended and I was on my way home. Annie followed me home. She came into my apartment, even though she could have went home to her husband and her kids after a long day of leading an event, right? She could have came home, but she went to my apartment. She got my broom. She swept up all my sugar and all that glass off the floor. And she sat there for like an hour and she talked to me about what was going on. It's that deeper level of friendship that will show up for you in the midst of the hardships and the challenges when it's inconvenient. It's not just let's bring this single girl along with us and our family. It's no, let me go meet her where she's at as well.
So good.
It's taking the time to listen to, right? To go on walks with, to walk out things in life with you, to pray through all the seasons of life, to fast for you, to check in about what's going on. Kind of making, I don't mean like carrying my stuff to be their stuff too, but I think when you're married, you have a person who's like also carrying the weight of your stuff with you and making it theirs to some degree, right? Because they care. It's being a friend that can somewhat do that, right? To be able to carry the weight with you. And I think even that has inspired me to do that for other single women too
Yeah.
in my life to say, nope, I'm going to come in and I'm going to metaphorically sweep the glass and sweep the sugar off the floor because you need someone to show up. You need to go sit on the couch and you need to tell me everything that's happening and process it with me. And then another thing I would say of what women need or single women need in their community is that single women need celebration. And what I mean by that is culturally, what are the two things that get celebrated? Babies and marriage, right? How many bachelorette parties have I been to and had a great time and right, all these things that you're showing up to celebrate for your friends, right? But single women don't naturally get celebrated for stuff. And so I would encourage any married woman listening, if there's a single gal in your life, mark down when their birthday is. And then I would say to the single women out there, like pray and seek out other single women as well. That has been a pivotal part in my life is that I have a few friends around me that are single that I can like do life with. I go to the gym with, I have dinner with, I live life with because they understand completely maybe the exact season you're going through. And so that has been life-giving as well. But just like we said earlier, we need everyone, right? We need all generations, all walks of life. We learn from each other because that is the body of Christ, right? That's how Jesus or God wired us. And so having those people are so important in your life for sure.
That's so good. For anyone listening, you can always follow Until All Flourish on any social
Yes.
platform for more.
Do it.
there's always a free Bible study at untilallflourish.com/Bible studies. And we have some pretty exciting episodes coming up too. So keep following.
Yeah, it was so much fun. Thanks for having me.